part, he had no run game and an awful offensive line. So he has had to initiate offense. That is a real NFL experience because you're going to go to a team with a bad O-line that doesn't have great weapons. You quarterback at Ohio State, that's not the real world where a drag route from underneath becomes a 60-yard gain. When you look at Shedeur, I think he's a B to a B-plus prospect. What is what's his superpower?
Well, his superpower, and I can give DJ a call if we need to get this thing settled. I can call him, Colin. But what he, if you're talking about the traits, the arm, the this, the that, no. But what he has are those intangibles that we always speak of all the time: the accuracy, the calm in the pocket, the poise, the confidence. That's what he has, and to me, that's really where you start with. With Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward's going to be the physical stuff, but Shedeur Sanders is really more of the intangibles that, frankly, we end up spotlighting for a lot of players that, end up being better than we expect them to be. So I think when you talk about superpowers, I think he's kind of a Clark Kent in the sense that, he's got the ability to do some things, but what really helps him to stand out, in my opinion, is the way he manages the pocket. He is very calm. He's very confident. And he's going to throw with accuracy. And those are three very big items.
Does he have a comp in the NFL? Because I've heard people talk about Cam Ward and say, and I can see it, there's a little Caleb Williams. What is Shedeur's comp?
Didn't put one. Couldn't come up with one. And I think, but I did today. I was thinking about it because I was anticipating you asked me about Shedeur. And I thought, who he needs to be? He needs to be C.J. Stroud and Jared Goff, and those are my comps for each other. I thought C.J.'s a lot like Jared Goff, and I still think that's true, and I think that's a good thing, by the way. I think that's who Shedeur Sanders has to be. Be those guys. Be game managers who can dissect defenses and who can keep the game on track. Don't try to be something you're not, which is a guy throwing off platform. You're not Patrick Mahomes. Don't try to be Patrick Mahomes. Be Jared Goff. That's a really good player to be, and that can win a lot of football games.
When the CTE stuff hit the NFL, there was the NFL, you were hearing a lot of stories that moms didn't want their sons to play football. And I remember hearing that, and the NFL was very aggressive pursuing moms and marketing and promoting, and women viewership in the NFL has gone up. But there was this sense that CTE discussion, there was like a feeling like, boy, this is too dangerous. And I remember that. And I hear how weak this draft is. And I just wonder, are we getting to a point where numbers are down, kids playing football, and, in the NBA, about every third draft is a clunker. Like, in the NFL, they're all good drafts. Some are just better than others. Does this feel like it is the first of what will become a little more consistently kind of average drafts? Fewer kids are playing high school football. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense. I hadn't really thought about it. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I've got a counter to that, really, because I write all these players up. I look at their bios. This is the fewest amount of players we've had declare early for the NFL draft in a long, long time. So I think the talent pool is watered down because NIL is keeping more players in school. It's better for us as sports fans, Colin. We get to see better college basketball. Frankly, we get to see better college football in terms of players staying a little bit longer. I think the flip side of that is there's also a lot of COVID players in this. And what I mean by that is I have never in my entire life, other than when I write up BYU players who typically do Mormon missions and it takes them a little longer, I cannot tell you the last time I wrote up so many 23 and 24-year-olds, so many players who played 6 years. And I think this draft is populated with the very end of the players who got the extra year from COVID. So they're older players. They're players who have been there longer. They're kind of average players, I think, who are maybe better than the competition because they're frankly older, stronger. They're just, they're more physically mature. But also, you got to remember, NIL is keeping more of the talented juniors in school than we've ever seen.
Okay, I think you can make an argument. Carter's and Travis Hunter are the most explosive athletes I saw. But I'm not sure that Mason Graham and T-Mac, the receiver at Arizona, aren't the best football players. And tell me how wrong I am. I think those guys are impact players day one. I think Carter's got more talent. I think Travis is generational. But Mason Graham and T-Mac from Arizona, I think those guys plug, play, star very early. Tell me I'm wrong.
I tell you, you might be wrong. It's so funny because people who watch the tape on Tet McMillan, they don't love it. And I didn't love it. Here's why. He just cruised on deep routes. He doesn't run to his top speed. He had a little bit of a foot injury in the offseason, so he was slow getting back into it. I want to see him out here working out. I want to see him drop his weight, get in and out of breaks quicker, get some separation. He's more of a Drake London type player, which is fine. I don't mind Drake London, but I don't think Drake London's ever going to be considered the best player in the draft. And while this isn't a great draft, I think Ted McMillan has some things to prove out here, either at the combine or at his pro day, depending on how he works it. Now, I thought his 23 tape is better than his 24 tape. And you can see right here, this is a guy when he's striding and when he gets his speed up, he's got build-up speed. So let's just see some of that out here at the combine. As far as, and there's some good wide receivers, but it's not a great wide receiver draft. I don't know that there's a true wide receiver one in this draft, a guy who's going to be a star on a team. As far as the other player you mentioned, Mason Graham. Mason is one of the safest players you can find in the draft. One of the absolute safest. High floor. I think his ceiling is a little bit more solid than unbelievable football player. People around the Michigan program will tell you that Kenneth Grant, the other defensive tackle, if they both play at their very best, that he could have the higher ceiling than Mason Graham. And really, it's not a slam on Graham. It's really talking about how good both of those guys have a chance to be. But, for me, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, the two tight ends, I think those guys and Ashton Genty are the three you really have to hone in on, beside, obviously, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, who you mentioned. I think Loveland is going to be a star in the making. I think Travis you know who Tyler Warren reminds me of? He reminds me of Jeremy Shockey when he came out.
Yeah.
I see a lot of Jeremy Shockey confidence in his game when he came out. And then Ashton Genty, for me, I'm looking at LaDainian Tomlinson, a guy who can create with speed, wiggle, and power, a guy who can do it on his own. So I think Genty's going to end up being a really special running back. The only problem with it is that, he's had so many carries and touches over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, does great stuff. He likes Ashton Genty. I think it's such a great running back draft. I'd be a little reluctant to go first round back. Carolina's also got a great one. We got to go. It's hour 2 next.
Coaches and GMs are putting their thoughts on the record after the Packers. Well, Sirianni discussed all the narrative surrounding the play. This is fun.
It's a skill that our team has because of the players that we have, the way the coaches coach it. There's just so much time put into it. The fact that it's a successful play for the Eagles and people want to take that away, I think is a little unfair, a little bit insulting in that sense of that, because the guys work hard at it, we work hard at it.
Yeah,
some interesting numbers here.
All right,
so
let me
remember,
hear the
they
numbers.
had Kelsey at center, and when he left, everybody was like, oh, that's a huge loss. They still did a lot of tush push. The numbers, the Eagles have run it 108 times since 2022. The second most team, Buffalo Bills at 55. So a half, basically, of the amount of times the Eagles have run it. Third most team is your Bears, 16. Basically, the Eagles are the only ones doing this. The Bills are trying. It failed miserably against the Chiefs. So why would everybody want to ban it? Why don't they at least try it?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds. He is a unique player for it, and he's also short. So you get this power lifter body behind the best offensive line in football. So some of it's just personnel realities. A lot of it's that. Most quarterbacks, Justin Herbert 6'5", Josh Allen 6'6", or they don't squat 600 pounds. They're big targets. Like Josh Allen jumping over the line is a huge target. Nor do they have the offensive line. So Philadelphia has this uniquely built quarterback, short and a power lifter body, and then they have a great O-line, so it works for them. That's the argument to keep it, is they have personnel advantages. The argument to get away from it is it can be a bit dangerous when you have people.
There's no evidence of that. It could be dangerous, but there's no evidence of Eagles who run it 108 times. Injuries, where are they? So this danger angle, I think you got to toss that.
How about this angle? It's a repetitive play that's bad TV.
I think every Eagles fan on the planet would argue against bad TV. It's automatic. They're running it at a 87% clip. It's working. It's automatic. Why would you want to ban it? I just don't get that.
Well, PATs were automatic. Kickoff touchbacks were automatic. The league has a history of getting off of things that are boring.
So are you surprised that because the Eagles have had so much success, other teams haven't been like, hey, we could have a backup quarterback like a Taysom Hill be our tush push guy? Why not?
Why didn't everybody copy the triangle offense with Phil Jackson? Because they didn't have Kobe or Michael. Why didn't you ask yourself, everybody in the world, why are the Lakers are the only team running this brilliant offense? Because Michael Jordan was unstoppable in it, and the only other player in league history that was 90% Michael was Kobe Bryant. And so a lot of it's personnel.
So you just put Jalen Hurts in the Michael.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts is a 600-pound powerlifting, 5'11 and a half guy that gets behind the best O-line. It's a personnel advantage. That's the Eagles' best argument is we just got better players at this. And they do. They're uniquely built to. If Jalen Hurts is 6'6", it doesn't work as well. He's a target. Like Jaden Daniels is not a player I would do this with because Jalen's he's got a thinner body frame.
Well, remember, the Bills were doing it with Josh Allen.
I hated
totally
it.
work against the Chiefs. I mean, Josh Allen's a tank.
I hated it. I thought it was terrible for Buffalo. I think it makes him a target where he's holding the ball up. I think that's so uncreative. I mean, if they're the second best team in the league at doing it, that shows you the separation between the Eagles and the rest.